The rain was crying on my window the morning my world ended. But it wasn't the storm that broke me. It was the knock on the door. It was a soft knock, almost shy, like a secret wanting to be told. I thought it was the mailman, maybe with a package. I was wrong. When I opened the heavy oak door, a girl stood there, no older than my own daughter would have been. She was soaked from the rain, her cheap jacket clinging to her thin arms. But it wasn't her shivering that I saw first. It was her belly, round and full under her wet shirt. She had my husband's smile, and she was carrying his baby. My name is Lois Huntley, and I was 52 years old. For 30 of those years, I had been Mrs. Graham Huntley. I was a wife, a mother to a son who lived across the country, and the woman who had built this perfect life from nothing. Our house in the quiet suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, was my masterpiece. It had a green lawn, a 2-car garage, and a porch swing where Graham and I promised we'd grow old. I had given up my career as a nurse to raise our son and to support Graham's dream of building his own construction company. I was the silent partner, the one who managed the books, hosted the dinners, and ironed his shirts. I was the good wife. The girl on my porch couldn't look me in the eyes. Her gaze was fixed on the polished floor behind me. "Are you Lois?" she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't slam the door in her face. A strange calm washed over me, cold and clear. I felt like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. I saw Graham's smiling face in the picture frame on the wall behind her. He looked so happy, so proud. I wondered if he was thinking of her when that picture was taken. "Yes, I'm Lois," I said, my voice steady, which surprised even me. "And you must be Amber." My husband, Graham, was a creature of habit. He wasn't very creative. Of course, her name was Amber. He had a weakness for simple, pretty names. He once told me he loved my name because it sounded strong and old-fashioned. I guess he got tired of old-fashioned. The girl's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. How did I know her name? That was a secret I would keep for a little while longer. The fear in her eyes was mixed with something else, a tiny spark of hope. She opened her mouth to speak, but only a sob came out. "He told me you were separated," she finally managed to say, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "He said you were just waiting for the right time to tell everyone." It was the oldest lie in the book, and she had believed every word. I felt a surge of something, but it wasn't anger at her. It was a deep, burning rage for the man who was playing golf with his friends right now, thinking his perfect world was safe. He had no idea the storm had finally come to his front door. I stepped aside and held the door open. "You're getting soaked out here. Come in," I said. Amber looked at me, confused, as if she expected me to throw something at her. She hesitated for a moment, clutching her big belly like a shield. "What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you scream and fight? Or would you see the bigger picture?" I wasn't just looking at the girl who helped destroy my marriage. I was looking at my husband's greatest weakness. And I knew, in that very moment, that she was not my enemy. She was my weapon. She slowly stepped inside, dripping water onto my pristine hardwood floors. I closed the door, shutting out the sound of the rain and sealing the three of us, me, her, and the baby, in our new reality. She looked around my home, at the pictures of my family, at the life I had built. I could see the shame on her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I never wanted to hurt you." I walked past her into the kitchen and put the kettle on. "I know," I said, my back to her. "He's very good at making people believe what he wants them to." I was a planner. I planned meals, vacations, and our retirement. For years, I had planned a perfect future with Graham. But as I stood there, listening to the whistle of the kettle, a new plan began to form in my mind. It was dark and sharp, and it was all for Graham. He thought I was just a simple housewife who managed his home. He had no idea I also managed every dollar he ever made. He thought I was weak. He was about to find out how strong a woman can be when she has nothing left to lose. The story of how I take back my life, my money, and my dignity is just beginning. It's a story of betrayal, but it's also a story of power. Stick with me, and I promise you will see how a broken heart can become the most dangerous thing in the world. If you want to see how this all ends, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single chapter. And I'd love to know where you are watching this story from. Please let me know in the comments below. Now, as Amber sat shivering on my expensive sofa, I turned to face her. I held 2 mugs of tea in my hands, a peace offering. She looked up at me, her eyes begging for something. Forgiveness, maybe? But I wasn't going to give her that. I was going to give her something so much better. I sat down across from her, looked her straight in the eye, and smiled a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Don't apologize to me," I said softly. "Let's talk about how we are going to make him pay for what he did to both of us." Amber stared at me, her mouth slightly open. The tea in her mug was forgotten, growing cold in her hands. "Make him pay," she repeated, the words sounding strange and foreign. "I don't want to hurt him. I want him to be a father to his baby." Her voice was small, full of a hope that I knew was a poison. I remembered having that same hope. I felt a quick, sharp memory flash in my mind. Me at 22, standing in a white dress, looking at Graham. He had whispered in my ear, "It's you and me against the world, Lois." I believed him then. I believed him for 30 years. I leaned forward, my voice low and soft, so she had to listen closely. "He will never leave me for you," I said, stating a fact as simple as the sky being blue. "He will give you money, just enough to keep you quiet. He will visit his child on weekends, maybe. He will tell you to be patient. And one day, you will be old news, and there will be another girl, just like you, who believes his promises." Every word was a stone I had carried in my heart for months. I saw the truth of my words dawn on her face, a slow and terrible sunrise. She had thought she was special. We all did. How did I know her name? That was the question burning in her eyes. It wasn't a detective or a suspicious friend who told me. It was Graham himself. 6 months ago, he came home late from a business dinner, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. He fell asleep on the couch, and his phone buzzed on the coffee table. A message lit up the screen. It was from a contact named Amber. It said, "I miss you already." My world didn't shatter then. It just cracked. I didn't confront him. Instead, I started watching. I learned how to be a ghost in my own life, gathering every secret like a squirrel gathering nuts for a long, cold winter. "He lies to you, Amber," I continued, my voice still quiet. "He told you we were separated. Look around. Does this look like the home of a man who is leaving his wife?" I gestured to the family photos, the worn armchair where he reads the paper, the whole perfect trap I had decorated myself. He told me he was at a conference in Atlanta last month. His company credit card statement says he bought 2 tickets to the aquarium and a very expensive dinner for 2. Was the seafood good? Her face went pale. The hope in her eyes was dying, and in its place, a tiny hard spark of anger was born. I needed to nurture that spark. That spark was all I needed. Her anger was the key. She thought this was about love and a baby, but it was about something much bigger, respect. Graham had disrespected her, and he had disrespected the 30 years I had given him. He thought we were just women, emotional and easy to fool. He didn't know that a woman's heart, once broken, can be put back together into something much stronger and far more dangerous. He thought his money and his business were his power. But he had forgotten one very important thing. Long ago, when his company was just a dream, he needed my signature to get his first business loan. I stood up and walked to a large bookshelf filled with photo albums and old novels. Behind a row of my favorite books was a small, hidden safe. Graham didn't even know it was there. I opened it and took out a single, folded piece of paper. It was old, the creases soft from years of being untouched. When Graham started his company, we were poor, I explained, not looking at her. The bank wouldn't give him a loan. So we created a second private company account. A fail-safe, he called it. A retirement nest egg. We were supposed to be equal partners. I paused, letting the silence hang in the air. I turned back to her, holding the old paper in my hand. He forgot about this account. He got successful and moved everything into bigger, more important accounts. But for 30 years, a small portion of every single paycheck, every bonus, and every profit has been quietly moved into this account. I unfolded the paper. It was a bank statement from last week. Amber's eyes widened as she saw the number at the bottom. It was more money than she had probably ever seen in her life. It was my money. It was our money. And I was not going to let him keep it. This wasn't just about the money, you see. It was about the life he stole from me. The future he promised and then gave to someone else. What he didn't know was that while he was busy building his new life, I was busy building my escape plan. And now, Amber was going to be a part of it, whether she knew it or not. I saw the fight leave her body, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She finally understood. Graham wasn't a knight in shining armor. He was a dragon, burning down everything he touched. "What do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice no longer the whisper of a scared girl, but the low tone of a woman who had been wronged. I smiled. The spark had become a flame. I walked back to her and sat down, placing the bank statement on the table between us. It was a declaration of war. Our war. "He trusts you," I said. "He thinks you are weak and that you love him. You are going to use that. You are going to get me the one thing I need to take everything from him. The one thing he keeps locked away where he thinks no one can find it." I let that hang in the air for a moment. Her mind was probably racing, wondering what it could be. Was it a password? A key? A secret document? It was simpler and more complicated than that. It was proof. Proof of every lie he had ever told, not just to me, but to his business partners, his investors, and even the government. Graham Huntley had built a house of cards, and we were about to become the wind. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, and told her what he kept in a locked box in his office downtown. Her eyes went wide with fear, and for the first time, she truly understood the kind of man she had fallen in love with. Amber's face was as white as a sheet. Fear was a living thing in her eyes, pushing out the anger that had just started to grow. "2 sets of books," she whispered, her voice shaking. "One for the taxman and one for himself? Lois, that's a serious crime. He could go to prison for years." She stood up from the couch, her hands protectively cradling her belly. "I can't do that to him. He's a good man. He's just lost. And he's the father of my baby." I almost laughed. A good man. Good men don't build their kingdoms on a mountain of lies. I stayed seated, calm and still. I let her panic fill the room. I had to break down the false image of the man she thought she loved. "He's not a good man, Amber. He's a careful one," I said, my voice cutting through her fear. I stood and walked to my husband's expensive mahogany desk. I unlocked a drawer he thought was only for old bills. Inside was a file. I pulled out a document and handed it to her. It was a life insurance policy. My life insurance policy. A very large one. Next to it was another paper, a recent medical report from a checkup I never had, stating I had a serious heart condition. Her eyes scanned the fake medical report, then the life insurance policy. She didn't understand. "What is this?" she asked. "Last year," I explained, "Graham increased my life insurance. He told me it was to protect our future." A few months later, this fake medical report appeared in our files. "Our doctor is an old friend of his." I let the horrible truth sink in. I wasn't just a wife he was cheating on. I was becoming a problem he was planning to solve. I was worth more to him dead than alive. This wasn't just about his future with her. It was about his future without me. Her baby's father wasn't just a liar. He was a monster. Amber collapsed back onto the couch, the papers falling from her trembling hands. The last bit of love she had for him died in that moment. I could see it. It was replaced by the cold, hard reality of survival. She was tied to a man who would fake a medical report and take out a massive insurance policy on his wife of 30 years. What would he do to a pregnant mistress he was getting tired of? She looked at me, her eyes no longer asking for forgiveness, but asking for a way out. She finally saw him for what he was, a dragon, sitting on a pile of gold, ready to burn anyone who got in his way. The box is the only way, I told her, my voice firm. Those books are our proof. They prove his fraud. It gives us power over him. With it, we can make him give us what we deserve without a long, messy fight. We can force him to sign over the private account to me, and to set up a trust for your child that he can never touch. We do this my way, and we both walk away with a future. We fight him in court, and he will use his money to bury us both in lies. I was offering her a choice, a clean break with a secure future, or a lifetime of fighting a man who would always be one step ahead. She nodded slowly, wiping tears from her face with the back of her hand. Okay, she whispered. What's the plan? His office is in the city. There are security guards, cameras. How do we get to the box? I had been thinking about this for months. I knew his schedule better than he did. I knew the security guard's name was Frank, and that he often fell asleep watching old movies after midnight. But that wasn't the plan. The plan was much cleaner, and it would happen in broad daylight. The plan relied on one thing: Graham's arrogance. He believed he was smarter than everyone else. His pride is his biggest weakness, I explained. And he is very proud of you. He loves showing you off, doesn't he? Amber looked down, a flush of shame on her cheeks. He likes to take me to fancy lunches near his office, to show his friends he can still attract a beautiful young woman. I nodded. Exactly. And tomorrow, you are going to call him. You're going to sound upset. You'll tell him you're worried about the baby and you need to see him. You'll insist on meeting for lunch at that little Italian place on the corner of his street. This was the first step in a very complicated dance. Amber listened, her eyes focused. She was a quick learner. While you are at lunch, I continued, you will start to feel unwell. You'll complain about pains in your stomach. You'll make a scene, a small one, just enough to make him panic. He can't have his pregnant mistress causing a scene in public. He will rush you out of the restaurant and want to take you to the hospital. But you will refuse. You will insist that the only thing that will make you feel better is resting for a few minutes in a quiet place. You will suggest his office. I could see the gears turning in her mind. She was starting to see the path. Graham, in a panic and desperate to keep his secret under wraps, would do anything to get her out of the public eye. His private office would seem like the perfect solution. A quiet, safe place where she could rest while he decided what to do next. He would think he was controlling the situation, solving a problem. He wouldn't realize he was walking his most dangerous secret right into a trap that I had set for him. A trap that had been 6 months in the making. He'll take you upstairs, I said, my voice barely a whisper. He'll get you a glass of water and make you lie down on the sofa in his office. He will be flustered and annoyed. And at some point, his phone will ring. It will be his most important business partner, confirming a meeting he can't miss. Amber looked confused. How do you know he'll get a call then? I allowed myself a small, cold smile. Because I'm going to be the one who calls his partner and tells him it's urgent he speaks to Graham right away. While Graham is on that call, you will have exactly 5 minutes. My plan was a clockwork machine, and every piece was ready to move. The next morning, the world felt too quiet. Every tick of the clock on the wall sounded like a bomb getting ready to explode. Amber had gone home the night before with my instructions repeating in her head. Now it was 10 o'clock, the time she was supposed to call him. I sat at my kitchen table, my phone in my hand, my heart beating a fast, nervous rhythm against my ribs. What if he said no? What if he was already suspicious? A plan is just a story you tell yourself, and I was about to find out if my story was strong enough to fool the man I had known for 30 years. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Amber. Just one word. Done. A wave of relief washed over me, so strong I felt dizzy. He had agreed. Of course he had. A pretty, younger woman, upset and needing him? It was the perfect meal for his big, hungry ego. He would feel powerful and in control, never guessing that he was the one being controlled. I looked at the clock. Their lunch was set for 1 o'clock. I had 3 hours to get into position. 3 hours until my old life was burned to the ground, so a new one could be built. I drove my car to a parking garage across the street from Graham's office building. From my spot on the 3rd floor, I had a perfect view of the Italian restaurant on the corner. I was the director, watching my play unfold from the shadows. I thought about a time years ago, when Graham came home with a tiny scratch on his car. He swore a shopping cart had rolled into it. A week later, our neighbor told me she'd seen him backing out of a parking spot, hitting a pole. He had looked me right in the eye and lied, just to avoid looking foolish. He would lie about anything, big or small, to protect his pride. And today, his pride was going to be his downfall. At 1:10, I saw them. Graham walked with a confident swagger, his hand on the small of Amber's back, guiding her into the restaurant. She looked small and fragile next to him. She was a brilliant actress. She looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes, playing her part perfectly. I sat in the silence of my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I was a puppeteer, pulling strings from a block away. But what if a string snapped? What if Amber lost her nerve? My entire future, and hers, rested on the shoulders of this girl I had only just met. A girl who was carrying my husband's child. At exactly 1:30, I saw a commotion through the restaurant window. A waiter rushed over to their table. Then Graham stood up, his face a mask of concern and annoyance. He was helping Amber to her feet. It was happening. She was making her scene. He led her out onto the street, his arm wrapped around her. From my car, I could see them arguing. Her hands were on her stomach. She shook her head, refusing to move toward the street where the taxis were. She pointed up, toward his office building. He hesitated. It was the longest 10 seconds of my life. Then he nodded and guided her across the street, right into the dragon's lair. Phase 1 was complete. Now it was my turn. My hands trembled as I picked up my second phone, a cheap burner phone I'd bought for cash. I dialed the number of David, Graham's biggest business partner. I had saved his number from Graham's phone months ago. When he answered, I put on a fake, professional voice. Mr. Miller, I'm calling on behalf of Graham Huntley. He has an urgent update on the Kensington project he needs to discuss with you immediately. David, an impatient and important man, grunted his thanks and hung up. Now all I could do was wait. And pray. My phone buzzed with a text from Amber. We're in his office. He is getting me water. My heart hammered in my chest. Any second now, Graham's phone would ring. Any second, Amber's 5-minute window would open. I imagined her, sitting on the plush leather sofa, her mind racing. Could she do it? The locked box was in a cabinet behind his desk. The key, as I knew from my own snooping months ago, was taped to the underside of his top desk drawer. A place so simple, he thought no one would ever look. It was a detail I had almost forgotten. Another text from Amber. His phone is ringing. This was it. I pictured Graham, his face annoyed at the interruption, turning away from her to take the important call. I could almost hear him using his deep, serious business voice, promising David Miller the world, while his whole life was about to be stolen from under his nose. Amber had to move now. She had to get the key, open the cabinet, open the box, and take out the second ledger. The real one. It was a thin, black book, unremarkable to anyone who didn't know what it was. The minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an hour. 1 minute. 2 minutes. My phone was silent. Why wasn't she texting? Did something go wrong? 3 minutes. My palms were sweating. I imagined the worst. Graham turning around, seeing her. The lock being stuck. The key not being there. The fear was a physical thing, a cold knot in my stomach. 4 minutes. Just as I was about to call her, abandoning the whole plan, my phone lit up with a new message. It wasn't a text. It was a picture. A picture of a black ledger book, open on her lap. A huge, shaky breath escaped my lips. She had it. She had done it. I texted back one word. Go. She was supposed to put the box back, leave the key, and tell Graham she was feeling better and wanted to go home. But before I could even feel the victory, my phone rang. It was Amber, and she wasn't texting. She was calling me. My blood ran cold. She was never supposed to call. I answered the phone, my voice a choked whisper. What's wrong? I heard a gasp on the other end, and then a terrified whisper. Lois. There's something else in the box. It's not just a book. It's a passport. A new one. For him. And a one-way ticket to the Cayman Islands. A one-way ticket. The words echoed in the silence of my car, louder than any scream. He was planning on running. My husband of 30 years wasn't just going to cheat on me. He was going to disappear and leave me with the wreckage. The plan I had made, the one I thought was so clever, suddenly felt small and useless. This wasn't a game of chess anymore, where I could slowly move my pieces across the board. This was a fire, and it was about to burn down everything. My 5-minute plan was over. My lifetime plan had just begun. Lois. What do I do? Amber's panicked whisper crackled over the phone. I could hear the fear in her voice, but I could also hear Graham in the background, his voice muffled but calm. He was still on his business call, completely unaware that his life was being dismantled just a few feet away. I had to make a decision, fast. Take it all, I said, my voice low and urgent. Take the book, the passport, the ticket. Put them in your purse. Leave the box empty and put it back. Do it now. It was a huge risk. Leaving the box empty meant he would know someone was on to him the moment he looked. But we had no choice. We were out of time. I heard a soft click over the phone as she closed the cabinet door. Okay, she breathed. It's done. In the background I heard Graham say, All right, David, I'll see you Monday. He was getting off the phone. Get out of there, Amber, I commanded. Tell him you feel worse. Tell him you need to go home now. Don't let him take you. Get in a taxi. I'll meet you at the place we talked about. Go. I hung up the phone, my hand shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The next few minutes were the worst kind of torture. I was blind, relying completely on Amber to escape. I watched the glass doors of the office building, my eyes burning from staring so hard. Each person who walked out made my heart leap into my throat. Was it them? After what felt like an eternity, I saw her. She was walking alone, moving quickly, her head down. She didn't look back. A few seconds later, Graham came out. He looked up and down the street, a confused and irritated look on his face. He clearly wanted to go with her, but she had gotten away. He ran a hand through his perfect hair, then turned and went back into the building. He still didn't know. But he would. Soon. Amber and I had agreed to meet at a small, forgotten park on the other side of town. It was a place where mothers brought their children, a place that held no memories for me and Graham. When I got there, she was sitting on a bench, her hands wrapped around her large purse. She looked like a scared kid who had just stolen a cookie. But she had stolen so much more. I sat down next to her, not saying a word. She opened her purse and handed me the black book, the crisp new passport, and the plane ticket. My hands were steady now. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, hard anger. I looked at the passport first. It was his picture, his name, Graham Huntley. But it was a different passport number. A second identity. He had been planning this for a long, long time. Then I looked at the ticket. It was for a flight from Charlotte to the Cayman Islands, a place where rich men hide their money and their secrets. And then I saw the date. It was for this coming Monday. Today was Friday. He was planning on leaving in 3 days. 3 days. He was going to drain his accounts, disappear, and leave everyone to deal with the mess he created. I remembered when our son, Michael, was accepted into his dream college. The tuition was more than we could afford. Graham wanted him to go to a cheaper state school. It's more practical, Lois, he had argued. I refused. I took on extra work, saved every penny, and we made it happen. I remembered the pride on Michael's face on graduation day. Graham had stood there, taking all the credit, telling everyone how he had always supported his son's dreams. He was a master at rewriting history, at making himself the hero of every story. And now, he was trying to write his final chapter, the hero who escapes. But I was going to change his ending. He thought he was closing the book on us, on his life here. He had no idea I was about to write an epilogue. Amber was watching me, her eyes wide. What are we going to do, Lois? 3 days is not enough time. She was right. We couldn't go through with my slow, careful plan to get the money. We needed to act now. We needed to stop him from getting on that plane. We needed to make sure he couldn't run from what he had done. He had built his own prison of lies, and I was about to lock the door and throw away the key. He's not just a cheat, Amber, I said, my voice as cold as steel. He's a thief. He's stealing our son's future, your baby's future, and the 30 years of my life that I helped him build this company with. We're not just going to take his money anymore. I looked at the black book in my hands. It was filled with numbers and names, a secret history of his greed. It was a bomb, and his fingerprints were all over it. He had given us the weapon we needed to destroy him completely. And I wasn't afraid to use it. I pulled out my phone. It was time to stop playing games. It was time to end this. What are you doing? Amber asked, her voice trembling. I didn't look at her. I looked out at the children playing on the swings, their laughter filling the air. They were so innocent, so unaware of the monsters that walk in the world. I'm making a phone call, I said, my thumb hovering over the numbers on my screen. Graham thinks he's untouchable. It's time he learned that everyone has to face the consequences. Amber leaned forward, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. Who are you calling? The police. I shook my head. No, I said. Not yet. First, I'm calling the one person whose betrayal will hurt him more than losing all his money. Amber's eyes were wide with confusion. If not the police, then who? She asked, her voice a hushed whisper. I looked down at the contact on my phone screen. The picture showed a smiling young man with Graham's dark hair but my kind eyes. It was our son, Michael. Calling him was the hardest thing I had ever had to do. It felt like a betrayal. I was about to tear down the hero he had looked up to his entire life. But Graham had left me no choice. He was about to steal our son's future, the inheritance from the company we had built together. I had to protect my boy, even if it meant breaking his heart. I pressed the call button. It rang once, twice. In California, it was still early afternoon. Michael would be at work. He was a computer programmer for a big tech company out there, smart and successful. Graham was so proud of him, always bragging about, my son, the genius. But Graham had no idea how smart Michael truly was. He just saw a reflection of himself, another success story to tell his friends at the golf club. He never bothered to know the real Michael, the boy who always took my side in small arguments, the boy who called me every Sunday without fail. Mom. Hey. Is everything okay? Michael's voice was warm and familiar, a comforting sound from a life that no longer existed. My throat felt tight. How do you tell your child that the man he worships is a monster? Michael. Honey. I need you to listen to me very carefully. I began, my voice trembling just a little. I need you to be calm. Something has happened with your father. I saw Amber flinch beside me on the bench. She was now part of a family's most painful moment. I explained everything, my voice low and steady, trying to keep the emotion out of it. I told him about Amber, the baby, the fake books, and the plane ticket. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. All I could hear was the faint sound of his breathing. I knew what he was thinking. He was thinking his mother had gone crazy. He was defending his father in his mind, coming up with 100 excuses. "Mom," he finally said, his voice strained. That's a crazy thing to say. There has to be a mistake. Dad loves you. He wouldn't do that." It was the reaction I expected. A son's loyalty is a powerful thing. But I had proof. "I'm sending you a picture now, honey," I said softly. "Look at it. Then you tell me if it's a mistake." I texted him the picture Amber had taken in the office, the black book open to a page of numbers, with the passport and the one-way ticket lying right next to it. It was undeniable proof. I waited. The silence on the phone was heavy, full of shock and the sound of a heart breaking. I remembered when Michael was 10, he had a pet hamster that died. Graham had told him to be a man and stop crying. I had held Michael for an hour while he sobbed. I was always the one who held our family's feelings. Graham was the one who pretended they didn't exist. "Mom." Michael's voice came back, but it was different. It was broken. The image of the hero had cracked. "That ticket is for Monday morning?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Yes," I replied. "He's planning on running, Michael. He's going to empty the accounts and leave us with nothing but his debts." I let that sink in. I wasn't just telling him his father was a cheat. I was telling him his father was a thief who was willing to abandon his own son. This wasn't about another woman. This was about cold, hard betrayal of his own flesh and blood. I had to know if he was with me. "Michael, I need your help," I said. "I can't stop him alone." Another silence. I could hear him thinking, processing 30 years of lies. Was he his father's son, or was he mine? The choice he made in this moment would change everything. I held my breath, waiting for his decision. The entire plan, the money, the revenge, it all rested on this one phone call. What if he called his father to warn him? What if he refused to believe me, even with the proof? I had played my most powerful card, and I didn't know if it would win the game or make me lose everything. "I'm on my way," he said, his voice suddenly firm, all the hurt replaced by a cold anger that sounded just like mine. "I'm booking the first flight to Charlotte. I'll be there by morning." Relief flooded through me, so powerful it felt like I could finally breathe again. He was my son. He was with me. "Thank you, baby," I whispered. Amber looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of respect. The mother and son bond was something she understood. She was fighting for her child's future, and I was fighting for mine. But then, Michael said something that made the hair on my arms stand up. "Mom, there's something you don't know about my job. Dad thinks I just write code for some app." He paused, and I could hear him typing on a keyboard. "My real job is in digital security and forensics. I find things people try to hide online. I trace money that people try to make disappear." My heart skipped a beat. It was a weapon I never knew we had. Graham thought he was running from a simple housewife. He had no idea he was also running from his genius son. I looked at Amber, a slow smile spreading across my face. The game had just changed. Graham's escape plan was built on secrets and hidden money. And I had just recruited the one person in the world who could find it all. "Michael," I said, a new strength in my voice. "When you get here, we're going to find every single penny your father ever hid from us." He replied, his voice deadly serious. "Mom, by the time I'm done, he won't have enough money left to buy a bus ticket, let alone a plane ticket to the Cayman Islands." Hearing my son's voice, so full of strength and purpose, was like a shield being placed around my heart. For the first time since that knock on the door, I felt a spark of something more powerful than anger, hope. Graham had his money, his secrets, and his escape plan. But I had my son. I looked at Amber, who was staring at me with a newfound respect. We were no longer just two wronged women. We were an army. And our general was on his way. But the war wasn't won yet. We had just won a single battle. The most dangerous part was still to come. I have to go home, I told Amber, my mind already racing, planning the next moves. Graham will be home from work soon. I have to be there. Everything has to look normal. I handed her some cash. Take a taxi to a small hotel outside the city. Don't use your credit card. Pay with this. Don't call or text anyone. Michael lands at 8 in the morning. I will pick him up, and then we will come to you. Until then, you need to be a ghost. She nodded, understanding the danger. She tucked the money away and stood up. Be careful, Lois, she said, and for the first time, I felt like she was truly on my side. I drove home, my mind a whirlwind. I had the evidence in my purse, a ticking bomb sitting on the passenger seat. I couldn't take it into the house. What if Graham looked in my bag? It was unlikely, but I couldn't take any chances. My whole plan rested on him believing that I was still the same clueless wife he had been married to for 30 years. I needed to hide the book and the ticket somewhere safe, somewhere he would never, ever think to look. An idea came to me, a sad and perfect idea. I turned the car in a different direction, toward the Quiet Pines nursing home on the edge of town. Graham's mother, Eleanor, lived in that nursing home. He put her there 3 years ago, after his father died, claiming he couldn't take care of her. The truth was, he just didn't want to be bothered. He visited her on Christmas and her birthday, staying just long enough to take a picture to post online, showing everyone what a good son he was. I, however, visited her every week. I brought her books and listened to her stories. She was a sharp woman, and she saw her son for exactly what he was. She was the one person in the world Graham underestimated more than he underestimated me. I found her sitting by a window, watching the birds. Lois, dear, she said, her smile warm but her eyes sharp. You look like you've seen a ghost. I sat down and placed my purse on her lap. Eleanor, I whispered, I need your help. Graham is in trouble, and he is trying to run. I didn't need to explain everything. She had known for years what her son was capable of. I showed her the passport and the ticket. She looked at them, her face grim. He always was a coward, she said, her voice filled with a mother's disappointment. She took the items and tucked them into a hidden pocket inside her knitting bag. They'll be safe with me, dear. No one ever looks in an old woman's knitting bag. I got home just 15 minutes before Graham did. I threw a frozen lasagna in the oven and splashed some water on my face, trying to look normal. When he walked in, he kissed me on the cheek, a dry, meaningless gesture. Tough day, honey, he sighed, loosening his tie. He had no idea. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw a plate at his head. Instead, I smiled and said, Dinner will be ready in an hour, dear. Why don't you relax? He smiled, satisfied. His perfect wife, his perfect home. He was a king in a castle that was about to crumble. We ate dinner in near silence, just like we had for years. He talked about his day, complaining about his partners and praising himself for a deal he closed. I nodded and smiled, playing my part. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. Every word he spoke was a lie. I knew he was thinking about Amber, about his escape. I was looking at a stranger. A man I had shared a bed with, raised a child with. How could I have been so blind for so long? The love I once had for him was completely gone, replaced by a cold, empty space. After dinner, as we were cleaning up, he said something that made my blood run cold. I think I'll need to stop by the office tomorrow morning, he said casually, placing his plate in the dishwasher. Just need to pick up a file I forgot. I froze, my back to him. Tomorrow morning. He was going to find the empty box. He was going to know. My carefully built plan was about to come crashing down. I had to stop him. But how? I had to think of a distraction, something big enough to keep him away from that office until Michael arrived. I turned around, a fake, sweet smile plastered on my face. "Oh, that's a shame, honey," I said, my heart pounding. "I was hoping we could do something together tomorrow. We haven't had a weekend for just us in so long. Maybe we could take a drive up to the mountains, like we used to." I was hoping to appeal to his sentimentality, to the memory of the man he once was. He looked at me, a strange expression on his face. For a second, I thought it was working. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of the old Graham, the man I had fallen in love with. He put his hand on my cheek, his touch making my skin crawl. "That's sweet, Lois," he said. "But I really have to go to the office." He paused, his eyes searching mine. "You know, Amber called me earlier. She was acting strange after she left my office. Said she felt sick." I held my breath. He knew something was wrong. "It just got me thinking," he continued, his voice low. "Something felt off today. I just need to go in and make sure all my important things are exactly where they're supposed to be." He was going to the office. He was going to find the box. And my son was still thousands of miles away. I lay in bed that night, my body stiff as a board, pretending to be asleep. Beside me, Graham breathed the deep, even breaths of a man without a care in the world. But I knew better. His words from earlier echoed in my head. "I just need to make sure all my important things are exactly where they're supposed to be." He was going to the office. He was going to find the empty box. And my son, my only hope, was on a plane somewhere over America. I felt a cold wave of panic wash over me. After all this, was I going to fail now? I couldn't let him get to that office. I needed to build a wall between him and his secret, a wall made of time. But how? I thought about faking a sickness, but I knew he would just call an ambulance and leave me behind. I thought about starting a fight, but he would just get angry and walk out. I needed something he couldn't ignore. Something that would attack his pride, his image as a perfect man. And then, I thought of his mother Eleanor, sleeping in her bed at the nursing home, unknowingly guarding my secrets in her knitting bag. It was a terrible idea. A cruel idea. But it was the only one I had. Hours before the sun came up, I slipped out of bed. I crept downstairs into the cold kitchen, my bare feet silent on the tile floor. I took out the burner phone I had used before, my hands shaking. My heart ached for what I was about to do. I was about to use an old woman's health as a weapon. I was about to lie to the staff who cared for her. But then I thought of Graham's one-way ticket, and the coldness in his eyes when he talked about money. The man I married was gone. I was dealing with a stranger, and I had to play by his rules. I dialed the number for the Quiet Pines front desk. A sleepy-sounding night nurse answered the phone. "Quiet Pines, this is Sarah." I disguised my voice, making it sound shaky and old. "Hello," I whimpered. I'm a friend of Eleanor Huntley's. I was just on the phone with her, and she fell. She was complaining of chest pains, and then the line went dead. "Please, you have to check on her." The nurse's voice immediately sharpened with concern. "Okay, ma'am, stay calm. We'll check on her right away. What's your name?" I hung up the phone. The lie was out in the world, a poison I had just released. Now, I just had to wait for it to work. I crept back into bed and waited. It felt like years, but it was only about 15 minutes later that Graham's cell phone on the nightstand buzzed violently, waking him from his sleep. He grumbled, grabbing for it. "What is it?" he barked into the phone. I watched his face in the dim light. I saw his eyes go wide. "My mother. A fall. Chest pains. Is she okay?" He was sitting bolt upright now, all sleep gone from his face. Yes, we'll be right there." He hung up and turned to me, his face a mask of what looked like concern, but I knew was annoyance. "It's Mom," he said. "We have to go to the nursing home. Now." The car ride was silent and tense. He drove too fast, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He was angry that his Saturday morning plans were ruined. He was worried about what people would think. He wasn't worried about his mother. When we rushed into the nursing home, we were met by the head nurse and a very confused-looking Eleanor, sitting in a wheelchair in the lobby, a blanket around her shoulders. She looked perfectly fine. "Graham, Lois, what on earth is going on?" she asked, her voice clear as a bell. Graham looked at the nurse, confused. "You called me. You said she fell." The head nurse shook her head, her expression stern. "Mr. Huntley, your mother is fine. We checked on her, and she was sound asleep until we woke her up. We have no record of her making any phone calls tonight." Graham was getting angry. "Then who called me? Who called you?" The nurse checked her logbook. The call we received about the fall didn't come from inside the facility. The caller ID was blocked. It was a burner phone. Graham's head snapped toward me. His eyes narrowed with suspicion. He looked at me, then at his mother, then back at me. A cold, terrifying understanding began to dawn on his face. He knew. He didn't know how he knew, but he knew this was my fault. I could see the gears turning in his head. My strange mood. My sudden suggestion to go to the mountains. This perfectly timed, fake emergency. He opened his mouth to say something, to accuse me, but just then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, my heart pounding against my ribs. It was a text message. I didn't have to look at the name to know who it was from. The timing was a miracle. It was Michael. I looked at the screen, and the message made all the air leave my lungs. It wasn't the message I was expecting. It wasn't, "I've landed, see you soon." It was something much, much worse. "Landed early," the text read. "Got a Wi-Fi signal on the plane and started digging. Mom, you were right. But we have a bigger problem. He's not waiting until Monday. He's moving the money. He's moving it right now." I looked up from my phone, my blood running cold. I met my husband's suspicious eyes. He thought he had caught me in a lie. He had no idea. My desperate plan had bought me a few hours, but it had also been the warning shot that started the race. He thought he had lost a file. Now, he was going to suspect he had lost everything. The fake emergency that was meant to slow him down had just pushed him to hit the panic button. He was trying to run right now, from a nursing home lobby on a Saturday morning. I looked at my husband, the liar, at his mother, the keeper of secrets. And I held the phone in my hand that contained the message from my son, the hunter. The storm was no longer coming. We were in it. I looked up from my phone and met my husband's cold, angry eyes. He knew I had lied. The air in the nursing home lobby was thick with unspoken words. For a moment, we just stood there, two enemies who had shared a life. But Michael's text had changed everything. The game of pretending was over. He was moving the money now. I didn't have time to be scared. I only had time to act. Fueled by a new, desperate energy, I went on the attack. "How dare you?" I said, my voice rising, making the nurses turn to look. "Your mother could have been dying, and all you can think about is your precious office." Graham was taken aback by my sudden rage. He was used to me being quiet and agreeable. "Lois, that's not..." he started, but I cut him off. "I am sick of it, Graham. Sick of you caring more about your work and your image than your own family." I turned to his mother, who was watching with sharp, intelligent eyes. "I am so sorry you were scared, Eleanor." Then I turned and walked toward the exit, my steps fast and loud on the polished floor. "I am going home. You can stay here and figure out who to blame. I'm done." I didn't look back. I stormed out into the cool morning air, leaving him standing there, stunned. The second I got into my car, the act fell away. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely put the key in the ignition. I pulled out of the parking lot and drove a block away before pulling over to the side of the road. I immediately called Michael. "I'm here, Mom," he answered, his voice calm and focused. I could hear the sound of a car horn and the city in the background. I'm in a cab on my way to the hotel to meet Amber. What's happening? He asked. No, I said, my voice shaking. Change of plans. He knows. He's running. Your text said he's moving the money now. I know, Mom. I'm watching it, Michael said. I could hear the furious clicking of a keyboard. He's smart. He has a chain of fake accounts. He's moving millions from the company's main account into a holding company, then bouncing it to another account, and another. He's cleaning it. By the time it gets to his offshore account in the Caymans, it will be almost impossible to trace. My heart sank. So that's it. He's won. I asked, the hope that had been growing inside me starting to wither and die. I had come so close, only to fail at the very end. No, Michael said, his voice hard as nails. He hasn't won yet. I can see the money moving, but I can't stop it without the passwords. It's like watching a train speeding down the tracks, and I don't have the key to the switch. He paused, and I heard him take a deep breath. But there's another way. A riskier way. We can't stop his train, but we can cause a crash on the tracks ahead of it. We can trigger the bank's main fraud alert system. If we do that, the whole system will freeze. Every transfer, including his, will be stopped for at least 24 hours. A spark of hope returned. How? How do we do that? I asked, ready to do anything. A fraud alert is triggered by unusual activity, he explained. Like a huge transfer from an account that has been quiet for a long time. The secret nest egg account you told me about, the one in both your names, has it been used recently? I thought back. No, I said. Not in years. We just let the money grow. I could almost hear Michael smile through the phone. Perfect, he said. Mom, I need you to log into that account right now, on your phone. And I need you to make a transfer. Okay, I can do that, I said, my fingers already flying across my phone screen, navigating to the bank's website. Where do I send it? How much? I was ready for his answer. I was ready to save my life's work, to save my son's future. I had the app open now, the balance of that old account glowing on the screen. It was a beautiful number, a number that held 30 years of my life, my work, my sacrifice. It was my money. And I was about to use it as a weapon against the man who helped me save it. You need to transfer all of it, Michael said. Every last penny. Send it to my personal account. A transfer that big, from a dormant account to a new payee, will set off every alarm at the bank. It will shut everything down. I was ready. My finger was hovering over the screen. Okay, I said. I'm doing it. It was the final move, the one that would decide everything. Win or lose, this was it. I was about to hit confirm and start the crash that would save us. But then, Michael's voice stopped me. Mom, wait, he said, his voice suddenly grave. There's a problem. I forgot about the new security. A transfer this big will require a two-factor authentication code. The bank is going to text a 6-digit number to the phone on file to confirm it's really you. You'll have to enter that code to complete the transfer. A simple text. That was all. I felt a wave of relief. Okay, I said. I'm ready for it. Just tell me when. There was a pause on the other end of the line, a silence that felt heavy and cold. I knew, even before he said it, that it wouldn't be that simple. Nothing with Graham ever was. Mom, Michael said, his voice deadly serious. You need to understand. That account is old. We set it up 30 years ago. Back then, you didn't have a cell phone. There was only one number on the account to receive those security codes. I felt a pit of ice form in my stomach as the terrible truth dawned on me. The verification text, Michael said slowly, doesn't go to your phone. It goes to Dad's. The world went silent. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. The verification text was going to his phone. It was a perfect trap, designed by a man who always had to hold all the power, and I had walked right into it. He was at the nursing home, miles away, with the 6 numbers that could save my life or end it. "Mom, are you there?" Michael's voice on the phone was full of worry. "We're out of time. The money is about to clear his last account." It was over. He had won. He had thought of everything, and I was going to lose my home, my future, and my son's inheritance. I leaned my head against the car window, the cold glass a small comfort. My mind raced, searching for an answer that wasn't there. He was a monster, but he was a smart monster. I looked at the picture of my son on my phone's background. I thought of Amber, alone in a hotel room, counting on me. I thought of the 30 years I had given to that man. A deep, primal rage burned away my fear. I was not going to let him win. Not today. "Michael," I said, my voice suddenly clear and calm. "There's one more person he underestimates. Stay on the line." I quickly dialed the front desk of the Quiet Pines nursing home. The same nurse answered. "This is Lois Huntley again," I said, my voice urgent. "I need you to do me a favor. Please go to my mother-in-law, Eleanor. Lean in close and whisper this exact phrase to her. The birds are ready to fly south. Can you do that for me right now? It's an emergency." The nurse was confused but agreed. I switched back to my call with Michael. "Mom, what are you doing?" he asked. "I'm trusting the woman who raised a monster to help me stop him," I replied. Minutes later, I could hear a commotion in the background of Michael's call, as he was still on the line with me, his laptop open. He said, "Mom, I'm hacking into the nursing home security cameras. I see them. Dad is looking at his phone, waiting. Your mother-in-law is. Oh my God." I held my breath. "What?" I begged. "She just slumped over in her chair," Michael said. "She's clutching her chest. The nurses are running over. Dad is panicking. He's rushing to her side." He dropped his phone on the table. "He's not looking at it." My plan had worked. Eleanor had created the diversion. But how could we get the code? But then, Michael's voice changed from panicked to confused. "Wait a second," he said. "Something else is happening. Eleanor, she's looking at her own phone. One of the nurses is holding it for her. She's squinting at the screen." What was she doing? My heart hammered in my chest. And then it hit me. The memory of a conversation from years ago. Graham complaining about how his mother always forgot her passwords. He told me, "I just made her phone the backup number on all my accounts. It's easier than trying to explain technology to her." He was arrogant. He was lazy. And he had made one last, fatal mistake. "Michael!" I shouted into the phone. The code. It went to her phone too. At that exact moment, my phone started ringing. It was the nursing home's main number. I answered it, my hand trembling. It was the nurse. "Mrs. Huntley? Your mother-in-law is asking for you. She's a little confused. She keeps saying she won the lottery and that she needs to give you the numbers." The nurse sounded worried, but I felt a wave of joy so powerful it almost knocked me over. "What are they?" I asked, my voice choked with emotion. The nurse read them out, a string of 6 simple numbers. The winning numbers. I typed them into my banking app. I hit confirm. The screen loaded for a second, and then a new word appeared in green letters. Successful. "It's done," I whispered to Michael. "It's done." On his end, he shouted with joy. "You did it, Mom. It worked. The system is frozen. I'm watching his transfers fail, one after another. He's trapped. The money is trapped." At the nursing home, Graham, finally realizing his mother was faking, would have turned back to his phone. He would have seen the "transfer failed" messages. And then he would have looked up and seen his mother, sitting up perfectly straight in her wheelchair, a small, triumphant smile on her face. The story of what happened next is the one you probably saw on the news. Graham Huntley, the successful businessman, was arrested for fraud and conspiracy. The Black Book, along with his fake passport, was all the proof the police needed. He lost everything. His company, his money, his freedom. He tried to blame me, of course. He told them I was a crazy, vengeful wife. But the numbers didn't lie. And a jury of men and women, who knew what betrayal felt like, didn't believe him. They believed the numbers in the little black book. This story has been about pain, and about heartbreak. But more than that, it's been about a woman finding her strength, and a family coming together to fight for what is right. If our story has touched you, please take a moment to like this video, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of their own power. And don't forget to subscribe, so we can continue to bring you stories of hope and justice. We're so grateful to have you watching with us on this journey. A few months later, I sat with Amber in a small cafe. Her baby, a beautiful little girl with my son's eyes, slept peacefully in her arms. The money Michael had recovered was split 3 ways. A trust fund for the baby, a new start for her brave mother, and a quiet, peaceful life for me. My son was back in California, but he called me every day. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, had a new private room at the nursing home, with a big window that overlooked a garden. I had sold the big, empty house. I didn't need a castle anymore. As I looked out the window of my new, smaller apartment, I saw my own reflection, and I finally recognized the woman looking back at me. She was strong. She was happy. She was free.